and welcome to the 4th episode of the Maddfuzzy Podcast. I am your host, Marta. I am coming to you from Knox, Maine, where I live with my handsome man and our 2 wonderful dogs, Truffle and White Dog. We are all home today, so Heath, my handsome man, is downstairs. The 2 dogs are roaming around the house, so hopefully we won't have any interruptions, but I would kind of like to see them stop by the podcast once in a while, say hi. A little bit about the dogs. So Truffle is 4. We've had her since she was a little puppy. She's a big old mutt. She's got a little bit of every neighborhood of Maine in her. She's got a little pit bull. She's got a lot of lab, a little beagle, a little Rottweiler, and she's just a stunning little brown dog and just a little bucket of love. And then White Dog we rescued about 2 years ago. She is going to be 4 this October, and she is a white shepherd. And we love them both, and they love it here. We live on about 50 acres in Knox, Maine, which is so small we don't even have our own post office. There is no bustling downtown Knox. Just the houses in the woods and a couple of roads and a grange. There is a grange. So we live here in a small little farmhouse, and we are building a cabin in the front yard for ourselves and our dogs and any future dogs we're going to have, because we are definitely dog people. So I just kind of want to take a second and tell you a little bit about myself. I am normally a Montanan, but I moved to Maine about 7-8 years ago and met Heath, and we have been together ever since. And now we're kind of building our life here. And I have discovered knitted socks. I've been a crafter my entire life. Mostly crochet, and I mean anything, stained glass, batik. I just kind of sampled here and there different crafts, and so I love craft. And there will be some weird things coming on this podcast coming up towards Christmas here, but knitted socks is really my forte. We've been gaining some viewers, so I thought I would take a second and kind of tell you about myself. I don't think I had yet on the podcast, so I will let you know. It is kind of a hot and humid day today in Maine, but it hasn't been. So I went to market on Thursday. It's a farmer's market. I sell beef and veal and cream cheese for a local farm. It is probably the best job a girl could ever have, and I get a workout to boot. And so I was in Booth Bay selling beef and veal and cream cheese, and it was so cold. It was about 58 degrees. It was raining sideways. It was windy. It was foggy. It was terrible. So we're having this like constant fluctuation between kind of cold, needing a jacket, almost freezing at these markets, and then being really, really hot and humid and sticky. So I have the fan going. Luckily I have a microphone when I record, so you shouldn't hear that. You also shouldn't hear the dogs trolling around. They're coming up and down the stairs and checking me out and seeing what I'm doing, all alone up here talking to a camera. So where you can find me on the internet, you can find this podcast, of course, on YouTube, because you're here and you're watching it now. It is a every other week podcast. I try to get an episode up here this is Monday, and I try to get it up by Monday night. You can find me most active on Instagram. I am at Maddfuzzy on Instagram, and not the best at posting pictures. I really got to get better. But when this yarn business I have started kind of picks up, there'll be more pictures kind of pertaining to that. So, yeah, Instagram, Maddfuzzy, follow along. You can also like this video and subscribe to this channel. I am almost to 100 subscribers. I can't believe it that 100 people want to tune in every other week to see me talk about knitting. But I have heard that it's a pretty good show, so thank you so much to the people who have commented and subscribed and let me know that they really enjoyed it. I'll be sure to keep it up. I did pull my camera back a little bit this week. I kept the focus the same, so hopefully week by week I'm improving. Sorry about the screen full of Marta face, but what can you do? I'm new at this, and I'm sure when I get up to 50 episodes, like some of those great podcasters, I'll have my setup sort of down. But you never know. There's always technical difficulties. We're just doing this, on what you got. So, Ravelry Group. We do have a Ravelry Group for the Maddfuzzy Podcast. It is a quickly growing Ravelry Group. Thank you so much for everyone who has stopped by and added it as a group. And thank you especially to the people who introduced themselves in the introductions thread. It's fantastic to hear from each and every one of you. I really do love reading through that and seeing where you're from. I'm not commenting on them. Something went by. I'm not commenting on every single one of them because I was going to do that drawing for the first 100 introductions. So your chances of winning are 1 in 100. It's going to be a Maddfuzzy skein. I am going to actually be dyeing it this evening. So it will be on the next podcast. Yay! Finally get to see what you already people who have already people. That's not even how you make a sentence, Marta. All you people who've already introduced yourselves, you'll be in the running. So you'll see what you have a chance of winning, and keep them coming. So that's why I'm not commenting. I want to keep it so the random number works. But I am reading every single one. I also had a wonderful viewer write in and give a suggestion, which I will share with all of you on my later segments. And I also had a viewer write in and ask to see how I cast on socks. So I will insert a little video of that later on in the podcast as well, of me casting on. And then I might just continue knitting that sock. You never know. So again, go to the Ravelry Group. Join the Ravelry Group, introduce yourself, get in those threads about socks and whatnot, because hashtag all I talk about is socks. And yeah, thanks again. If you are a returning viewer, because I can say this now, because I have 4 episodes. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. And if you are a new viewer, thank you for coming to my small little corner of the internet. It's a good one. I think we're going to have fun. But I do warn you, there's a lot of socks. A lot of socks. Because hashtag all I talk about is socks. So thank you. And I guess we'll get into the meat of this episode, which is, of course, sock knitting. I've gotten a little bit of time to knit, but because I've been sharing my time among projects, I do not have any finished objects. I also don't have any half-finished objects. So I just have a handful of whips. But I'll get right into those. So the first one, I have taken off with my Mercury sock. I am just loving it. And I had made a decision last week that I was going to do the base of the foot only in stockinette, and I wasn't going to do the lace pattern on the top of it. I went back and looked at the pictures. I'm doing the lace panel on the top of it. It just looked so nice. And if I don't really like them as lace socks, Christmas is coming. And so I'm going to need a lot of, Christmas gifts for young ladies who have a very similarly sized foot to me. So this is my blue Mercury sock, I'm calling it. It's the Mercury sock pattern by Kim Drotar. It's so intuitive at this point that I'm just like cruising through it. I don't even use the tracker anymore. I'm just absolutely loving it. So then I've turned the heel and picked up the stitches, and I'm just starting to gusset now. Oh my goodness, this is the problem with being so far back. I have to get all the way up here. I'm now standing to show you these socks. So still a work in progress. So here we go. Focusing on this slip stitch heel here. Gorgeous. I'm liking the way that the yarn is knitting up in stockinette. I always do that garter ridge on my heel flap. I find it so easy to pick up. It's such a strong connect. I just love it. So I keep doing that. Like I said in my first episode, I got that from Hermione's Everyday Sock, which is a huge pattern on the internet. If you haven't made one, make one just for this little aspect. And it's got a lot of other real great construction pieces. It's not just a pattern on a sock. It's really an interesting way to look at the construction of a sock. So that's where I am on the blue Mercury sock. I plan on keeping on working on this. It's so nice now because it's stockinette on the bottom and then the lace pattern on the top. And so I don't have to think as much, Most of it's stockinette and a little lace, and so I am thoroughly enjoying this. And I will keep going. I am knitting those on my DPNs. They are, I believe, a 2.5 millimeter carbon, and then I put 60 stitches on because that's kind of what the pattern calls for and how the lace works. So that's how many stitches is on that one, and why I went to a slightly larger needle size so that they would fit. But now this lace, this gauge is so loose, I'm thinking, maybe I should have, just sort of changed it up a little bit when I went into the foot. But, hey, you live and you learn. You do the pattern again, right? Or you do it for the next one. So up next, I have the socks from my boyfriend. The yarn is not coming with me here because I've got to travel a little ways here. This is that wool-free yarn. It's like a spandex, but I am just loving how this is the pattern is so fun. And it is fun to work with. I'm not actually disliking it. It's super stretchy. It holds its shape. Let's see. I am also knitting these on DPNs. They are my Knit Pro Zings. I really like these. I know they are a 2.5 millimeter because they are red. I don't do US sizes. I've always been a huge supporter of metric. In my life, I've found that being able to multiply by 10 is amazing. And so I try to use the European sizes, and so as a result of using the European sizes, I have no idea what the US sizes are. Like in crochet hooks, they're letters. I mean, 2 millimeters and 2.5 millimeters are different. Like that's like a knowing different. Like how are J and E different? It's my dilemma with needles. So I always go with the metric version. So these are 2.5 millimeter needles. And that is my sock for my boyfriend. It has not gotten as much love as the other ones, but it has gotten some love. It definitely has. The thing that has gotten all of the love this week is, of course, my Avengers socks. I mean, look at this. Hold on a second. I know. It's so long because I have decided I'm going to do an afterthought heel. I'm going to do the Kirby Werby demo that is just like taking the internet by storm. She's so funny. In the video, she's like, no one's going to watch this. It's going to be the worst. And it's like the #1 video used right now for an afterthought heel. So I'm going to do it like she does and leave those little ends in. You got to see it. And I'm going to do an afterthought heel with this. So I took a measurement of my friend's foot. He tried it on again. It fits. I guess these are his Christmas socks. So I took a measurement of his foot so I can do the toe and the math. She gives you the math in the beginning of it, which is brilliant. I love it. So I'm going to do the math, and I'm going to pop in a heel somewhere in one of these stripes. But I'm on the toe decreases. I think I need to, of course, bring out some kind of a measuring device and actually measure and see if, like, my imaginative, 8 inches is really 8 inches. So I'm going to do that before I actually start the toe decreases, but I am at the toe decreases in my mind. So this one will get off the needles, and then I'll be doing my afterthought heels. I haven't quite decided what yarn I'm going to use for the heel. I might just use the same yarn because I've always liked how they stripe outward. You've only done heel flap and gusset, and then you get to do something that's going to look pretty, like in the striping pattern. I mean, not that heel flap and gusset doesn't look pretty. It does. But you get this weird pooling on the flap that afterthought heel doesn't. And I'm excited. I am very excited. I was also thinking, one of my main problems with other heel constructions is longevity. I know that my slip stitch heel is very strong, the gusset is very strong, the pickup stitch is a nice seam. There's a lot of yarn there that can be worn without the actual integrity of the sock, completely falling apart. But the thing about afterthought heels, if you use a different kind of yarn, you'll see where you picked up the original stitches. It's the row of the body of the sock yarn. And if you get a hole in the heel, you could pick up the stitches, theoretically, take out your broken heel, and then re-knit it like you did the first time. And to me, that sounds awesome. That's where I wear. I could totally just keep replacing the heel, and they'd have a different color, maybe color coordinate them yearly, all my 2017 heels are blue and all my 2016 heels are, or 18, I guess we should go forward. We're going into the future, people. 2019 heels are red, and I could kind of see when I fixed each sock. I don't know. That might just be what goes on up here and how much I love knitted socks. But we'll see. See, now that I have someone to share this bucket of crazy with, I think I'm going to actually follow through with some of these crazy ideas. You guys are enablers. You're gonna be bad for my health here, making different colored sock heels yearly and then cataloging them. Oh my goodness. Wow. I hate to say it, that actually is the end of my knitting segment. Those are the 3 socks I got on the needles. There will be 4 socks though, because I am going to show you how to cast on. and I'm just going to keep going with that sock. If I get out the Swift and the ball winder and I wind up a skein, I'm totally going to continue that sock. And I've got so many on the queue, and you'd like to see something new, wouldn't you? So that's where that's going. But that does come to the end of this knitting segment. Hey folks, it's Marta here. I was going to show you how I cast on my socks. Pardon my gross fingernails. I did garden all day today. So we're going to start by tying a slip knot. So I do a slip knot. I will stick one of my free needles through the slip knot. I have to cinch it up just a little bit so I can still get this needle through. So then I'm going to, with the knot on the inside, go through the stitch back to front like I am going to knit. I will then take the long tail, which is the one attached to your ball, and I will wrap it around and I will pull it through this loop. That's why you don't want to keep that so tight. So now I have pulled, this is this. Yep, so I get that out and I put that right over the top of this needle, and I'll pull it tight, and I use this finger to do so. I will then stick it through again as if to knit, wrap it around, pull it through the loop. So then I have this, it goes over the top of the needle, I pull it down tight. Sorry, I'm trying to focus it for you here. So I'll do it again here really fast. I'll go through the loop, I will pull the loop through, and I put it over the top of the needle. One more time, I go through as if to knit, pull up a loop, put it over the top of the needle. So I am inserting my needle through 2 stitches. So there's one that I just made. I go through it as if to knit, pick up the loop, and put it on top. And I will do however many stitches I need that way. And I really like the edge it makes. It's a nice consistent edge. It looks like a nice knitted edge. And so that is how I cast on my socks. I have no idea what it's called. That's just how Betsy taught me to cast on. So up next, I was knitting group last Friday. Because there was 5 Fridays or something in July, something with the Fridays got screwed up, so it wasn't every other week. I had to wait a week, which was awful. So finally it was knitting group again, and that's at the Marsh River Co-op in Brooks, Maine. It's a delightful group of women. My friend Kate has also joined us, so that's fun. I have like a friend inside of a group of friends, so I can kind of hang out with her, and we chat, and it's nice because I usually only see her at farmers markets, and when you're at farmers market, you're really, like 90% working, so you really have to keep an eye out. Does someone want a sample? Hey, do you want to buy something? Oh, hey, we were having a conversation. So it's nice to be just like chatting. And so we were at knitting group, and she brought her wheel. She's a new spinner, and I spun all the row logs that I had for that advent calendar from Bakewell Hearts that I talked about in my first episode. You can always go back and watch it. That's a great episode, by the way. And I got through all the row logs, so now I have maybe 5 or 6 little batlets that I need to spin, and that'll be ready to ply. And so I'm hoping to ply that at spinning group. A lot of them don't really know how to Navajo ply or chain ply, and I know Kate's especially interested in it, so I'm gonna kind of probably do a little demo on that at knitting and spinning group. I really love that for socks. It's a really round yarn, and I love the stitch definition I get from round yarns. So that's where I stand on my spinning. I'm not going to show it to you because it looks the same. I finished maybe like an ounce of fiber, so I will show that before and after I ply it, so you can see both of them. Yeah, so I got like a little bit of Maddfuzzy news as we move into our next segment. So Maddfuzzy is my handmade, it's hand dyed, and I do way more than dye it. So I go to the farm, I select the fleeces, I skirt the fleeces, I I sort the fleeces, I bring them all the way up to the mill in a rustic, which is about 3 hours each way. And for me, 3 hours, it's not as far as it could be, but in Maine, that's like the entire state. Like, I go across the entire state to get up there, and then drive all the way back. And so I drop that off, and a month later, he gives me this sort of yarn I've created. I tell him how many twists per inch I want. I tell him, what kind of gauge I want. I want this many yards per this many grams, and so on and so forth. And I got back a 2-ply, beautiful East Frisian sheep sock yarn that I am hoping to bring to knitters. I'd say this fall we are going to get this yarn into knitters' hands. I am going to probably do some sampling out and seeing what people think of it as well, sort of market testing. And so there will be a lot of Maddfuzzy prizes on this show. I may want to do swaps, things like that, and see what people think of Maddfuzzy, because I don't think there's anyone out there who's ever knit with East Frisian. It's meat and milk sheep primarily, and it creates a yarn that's going to be extremely long wearing. It's going to have it's huge staple length. It's almost at the end of what he can spin as far as the length. He can only spin up to so many inches, and mine is really right at the cusp there. So it's going to be long wearing. It's not scratchy. I heard this described on another episode of another podcast. It's strong. It's got a real wool feel that is not too itchy to be worn on your feet. I wouldn't make a sweater out of it or like a cowl. I'd make mittens or socks. And that's really, I'm trying to create the perfect sock yarn. And as I knit with these other kinds of sock yarn, I'm realizing that maybe this super soft, superwash merino and nylon is not going to last as long. And I've put so much time and energy. If I can get the colors that I truly love, why wouldn't I want a sock yarn that is, made for socks? It's high twist, 2-ply. It's just gorgeous. So that's where I am with Maddfuzzy. Maddfuzzy is it's a bunch of cones of yarn being skeined up and hand dyed here in this little house, and it's hopefully going to be like a real thing that people can purchase. I'd say within the next 2 months. This cabin is really deciding how fast I move along. But I'm going to dye some tonight because here's my Maddfuzzy news. I went to the Goodwill in Belfast, Maine, and I found not 1, not 2, but 3 pots for dyeing. 1 1-gallon enameled, 1 3-gallon enameled, and 1 stainless steel roasting pan. I'm so excited. I got them all for under $15. So I am going to do some different colorways. I was really limited by my color, like how many colorways I could do a night, because I'd have to wait for 1 pot to cool down, take the yarn out, wash the pot, do it again. And so if I have multiple pots cooling and heating and different processes, I can actually viably dye, yarn, viably dye yarn. You can't really talk out in public that, like, I'm dying, I'm going to go home and I'm going to die tonight. I found you've really got to add that extra little bit of I dye yarn. So I'm going to try out those new pots. I got a little bit more free time, and hopefully next episode it's going to be really heavy Maddfuzzy. I'm really hoping to bring out some exciting new colorways. I'm excited to do some test knitting of my very ownsies. I'm excited to get yarn into other knitters' hands. I've got lots of knitting friends that I just can plop a little skein in the mail and be like, make a pair of socks, tell me what you think. So yeah, free time and new pots. That's the Maddfuzzy news for this week. I guess also this brings me to the little segment on my life. If you're just here for the yarn-based content, thanks so much for coming. If you want to stick around for a little bit of the shenanigans that we are up to here, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the shenanigans we are up to here. So we have been building a 20 by 20 cabin in the front yard of this house. And it has been slow moving. And I never really expected some of the obstacles we would come up against. I never thought about how tricky fitting rigid insulation is between boards that are not perfectly even, and it just took a lot longer, and we got the subfloor down, and now we have a wall. we have the first wall. Our friends Abby and Joel came out last night and we built that wall and we weeded the garden and had an amazing dinner. I knew they were coming. And so on Friday at market and Saturday at market, I just sort of collected things for this ultimate dinner. So they built the wall, I built a fire in the hibachi, and I made ground beef and ground veal burgers that were filled with blue cheese from Monroe Cheese Studio. We had fresh arugula on the top of them from a farm that I had gotten that on Thursday in Booth Bay. I believe it's Talbot Farm. And we had a salad with the beef version of prosciutto on it that I had gotten from another neighbor vendor. And it just was this amazing local, really delicious meal that I pretty much, traded and got for free. Sometimes if you're at market late, some people don't want to take home certain items, samples, things like that, and kind of pass them around and trade for yours. And I ended up with a lot of great food for a very little price. So that's really the highlight of my job is getting out there and meeting these other farmers. And I really hope that I can bring you more small farms in the future. I really would like this this podcast to be not only about knitting, but about my neighbors here in Maine and give you a little glimpse of what life is like here in Waldo County. We're mostly agricultural. There's not a lot of money running through this county, and it probably is my favorite place in the entire world. And so I'd love to share a little bit of that, where I'm from and who I hang out with and what cool things they're doing on the podcast. So with the winter will come time, and with time will come small little interviews from local farmers. So that's something to look forward to. I knew this wasn't going to be a very long episode. I did not have a lot of knitting content, so I did kind of want to fill in a few things that have been rolling around up here in my brain and sort of give you a highlight of what's to come and where I want this podcast to go now that I'm at episode 4. I'm kind of getting a habit of how to film and how to write my notes and how to edit quickly. And so this is going to become more regular. I really want to take part in things like Vlogtober. I really want to take part in things like Vlogmas. So this isn't just going to be me sitting in this little room. It's going to be a lot more, and I'm really excited to bring all of that to you. And I hope that you will enjoy my podcast as much as I enjoy so many other great podcasts out there. I actually just found a good podcast. If you haven't watched Yarn to Table, I just found that the other night. Thanks, you two, for suggesting another good podcast. So I told you about our delicious dinner. Told you about our wall. Let's see what else. We had a party. We didn't host the party. We went to a party. Every year, a family in the area has Christmas in July, and it was quite the party. I have to say it was the biggest fireworks display I had seen in a long time. I mean, it was huge. Like, at one point, there was so many fireworks in the sky that all I could do was, like, audibly, like, woo, yeah! Like, it was uncontrollable. It was so much noise and so many beautiful colors. So, they know how to party it up out here. Christmas in July was a huge success. The weather was absolutely perfect. It rained for a split second, just in the evening, and it cooled everything off and instantly dried up. And it was just a perfect evening with friends and family. And I guess finally, last night was the premiere of Game of Thrones. We tuned in, super excited. Oh my goodness, huge fans. And then proceeded to rewatch older episodes afterwards because we have to get our fix. But we're very excited about that coming back on. I did not get those self-striping socks dyed. I suppose I could try tonight. It's not gonna happen. They were a pipe dream, I tell you that. I thought I could do it, but there are other things on my plate. So, thanks again for tuning in. Sorry about this kind of waffleness at the end here, but it should be a good episode if you rewind to the beginning where I was actually on topic. So thanks again for tuning in. Thank you so much for subscribing if you are a subscriber. If you are not, hit the little subscribe button. Also, you can go ahead and like this if you enjoyed it. Comment below. I do post my show notes in the description as well as in the Ravelry group. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and I hope you enjoy your knitting.